Dr. John Peterson, and you're watching the Alofa Movement YouTube program. This is video number 3, and I'm looking forward to talking a little bit today about our topic of interest. I'm going to try and bounce around a little bit and try and keep things varied in terms of what I discuss and what we can share with each other and what I can share with you in terms of information. Today's topic is called Demystifying the ACT exam. For those of you that are familiar with my professional background, I was in education for 18 years and mostly K-12. Did a little work at the post-secondary level around college and career pathways, college readiness and career pathways, mostly in St. Paul Public Schools. And I thought what I would do on Fridays, if Thursdays are going to be more focused on the business side of things, I thought Fridays could be focused more on education and a little bit of information on K-12 and or post-secondary. And so as I was thinking about what to talk about for today, I thought that we could talk a little bit about unpacking the ACT exam and demystifying a little bit of what that exam is all about. So for those of you that are familiar, and most folks that have gone on to an undergraduate degree or a 2-year degree, community college, graduate school, and for folks just generally who have taken high school through the age of 16 or beyond, are familiar with what is called the ACT exam. The ACT exam is a college entrance exam, and one of the purposes of the exam is to try and predict how successful a high school student's going to be as an undergraduate student in college. And so I believe in the junior year, students take that ACT exam, and then the results are used in terms of applications for students when they apply to go to colleges, whether it's a 2-year college, community college, and in most cases it's a liberal arts college if you're taking the ACT. Students who go on to a 2-year degree sometimes take what's called the AccuPlacer. At least here in Minnesota, that's what students who go to the MnSCU system, which is the Minnesota system for 2-year community colleges. A lot of students take the AccuPlacer, and I can certainly talk about the AccuPlacer at another time. So the ACT is designed to hopefully predict with some level of validity whether or not a student is going to be successful in college and whether or not the student is going to retain and persist through to graduation and persist through to their degree. One of the things that I found out while I was working in St. Paul Public Schools, however, is that there's some variation in the ACT in terms of the validity of the 4 different subtests. So the ACT, as some folks may know, and some of you may know, is made up of 4 different subtests. And those subtests are called math, English, science, and reading. It's math, English, science, and reading. Those are the 4 subtests that make up what's called the composite score, or the aggregate score that a student receives after they've successfully completed the examination. One of the things that I found out while I was working in St. Paul, however, is that, as I mentioned, the validity of those 4 subtests varies pretty greatly when you take a look at how the assessment is used as a predictor for student success in college. And one of the things that I wanted to share with folks today is a really interesting article by Eric P. Bettinger, Brent J. Evans, and Devin G. Pope. This article was called Improving College Performance and Retention the Easy Way, Unpacking the ACT Exam. It's an article that came out of the School of Education at Stanford University in 2013. And if I'm not mistaken, it was published in the Journal of Economics back in 2013. For those of you that are in post-secondary education and or parents who are interested in learning more about the article, you can find it online. I don't believe it costs anything to download the PDF, and I just printed off the first 5 pages of the article for today's conversation. In this article, Bettinger et al. Talk about improving college performance and retention being a difficult task. What they propose is a simple and low-cost change in the way colleges use the ACT exam in terms of how they make decisions about admission for students into programs. And what they found is that only 2 of the 4 subtests of the ACT, and that would be English and mathematics, can effectively predict in a valid way outcomes for college for students. This result is robust across various samples, specifications, and outcome measures. And the authors demonstrate that by eliminating the noise associated with the 2 non-predictive subtests, which are reading and science, student college matches can be significantly improved. I'm not going to go into a long explanation of or summary of the article, but what I will say is that based on the findings of the article, what they state is that 2 of the subtests really aren't that valid. And those 2 subtests would be science and reading. Now, I don't want to imply or make the suggestion that science and reading are not important. Obviously, they are very important. And this is not meant to be a slight in any way on science as a field or reading as a field or teachers or professors or anyone who teaches science or reading. They're both incredibly important. But what the study says is that in terms of the validity of the composite score, the reading and science subtests actually support the invalidation of the composite score, which typically is the score that is used to determine, whether or not a student gets into a college, along with some other criteria like grade point average and extracurricular activities, and in some cases the SAT, and as I mentioned, for 2-year colleges, the AccuPlacer, and sometimes they'll do interviews too for colleges as well. I wanted to explain this, or at least share this information and explain it in the video today, because I think that some students get caught up in what I would call the abyss of the ACT exam, in which they are unable to increase their composite score. And sometimes students will do ACT test prep. They'll take courses. They'll do private tutoring. And what I wanted to share with parents mostly in this part of the video is that the 2 subtests that you really want to think about focusing on are the subtests for mathematics and English, because those 2 subtests, according to the research in this article by Bettinger et al., seems to indicate that those are the 2 subtests that matter the most. And those are the 2 subtests, along with GPA and a few other indicators, that are going to give your student, your child, the best chance to predict whether or not they're going to be successful and persist at graduation and degree. I also wanted to share this for those of my colleagues and friends who are in post-secondary, and I have a few folks on Facebook and other places that are in post-secondary. I think one of the things that, and I'm not in post-secondary and I haven't been in post-secondary, but I've heard from different people that college retention and retention rate is an issue in post-secondary education, especially as it pertains to students of color and Native and Indigenous students. And so I wanted to share this information in this article, particularly with post-secondary folks, because I think it's important for you to take a look at how is your admissions department or admissions team determining who gets in and who doesn't get into your college or university based on the composite ACT score. What the article states, and I can read a little bit from it, let's see here, just bear with me for a second. It says the education literature has discussed many possibilities for boosting college retention rates, such as removing financial obstacles, preparing high school students better. We hear a lot about that in K-12, improving the quality of the match between universities and students, and improving the social and academic integration of students. All of these likely reflect important factors in retention and performance. That's not to be argued. However, these solutions can also be costly and hard to implement. In this paper, the authors discussed an additional, simple, low-cost way to improve college performance, match, and retention. Specifically, they proposed that a simple fix in the use of ACT exam scores by college admissions officials can improve the likelihood that colleges admit students with the highest chances of succeeding. They also go on to state that, not surprisingly, and confirming a long line of literature, we find a strong correlation between higher ACT composite scores and positive college outcomes. However, this overall correlation masks an important pattern. Mathematics and English scores are much more tightly correlated with college success than our reading and science scores. In fact, after controlling for mathematics and English scores, reading and science provide essentially no predictive power regarding college outcomes. And then they go on to talk about the different data subsamples and describing how they went through the methodology for the study. It's about a 30-page report, this particular study, and I think it's incredibly important for people in post-secondary as well as parents to be aware of what's in the report. And there's other literature out there too. I pulled this one because it's one of the seminal pieces on this particular topic of demystifying or unpacking the ACT exam. But I think it's important for people to be aware of this and know that if you have a particularly high and or low composite score, it is not necessarily indicative of your success or future success in college. Okay, I want to say that again. The composite score that you get on the ACT, at least according to this study, is not particularly indicative or predictive of how successful or unsuccessful you're going to be in college. What you really need to think about is, how are you doing in your mathematics and how are you doing in your English language skills, which is inclusive of reading comprehension, writing, oral speaking. A lot of different ways for communicating fall under English. And so looking at strategies as a parent that helps to improve your child's English abilities, such as music, the creative arts, learning a second language or a third language. In some cases, for some students, all of those things can contribute to improving and increasing the English language skills of your child. In addition to dedicated reading time, where your child self-selects and independently reads at home. It's very important. I know that they talk about that at different schools, and the teachers love it when students do some reading at home, as well as writing. Writing is incredibly important in terms of improving your English skills. In fact, I would say that writing is the second most successful and important way for you to improve your English skills is writing right after the act of reading. So I'm not as much on the math side of things, so you're gonna have to figure that out for yourselves. But obviously, there are some different ways that you can improve your mathematics skills as well too. So anyway, we're at about the 13-minute mark here, so I'm not going to go on to talk too much more about this, other than to just summarize and say that the ACT exam has been around for a long time, and it's probably going to be around for a lot longer. It's pretty close to on par with SAT in terms of what I've read, in terms of the number of tests that are given each year. And especially in the Midwest, the ACT is used as a pretty important factor in determining whether or not you get into a particular college or not. Just remember that there's a study out there called the Bettinger study. I'll give the title of it again. It's called Improving College Performance and Retention the Easy Way, Unpacking the ACT Exam. Check it out when you get some time online and acquaint yourself with some of the information in the study. Like I said, it's only about 30 pages long. And I think it can be something that you can use as a parent and as your child might want to use when you start looking at different colleges. You can start to ask questions of the admissions team. So how do you break down and disaggregate the composite score for the ACT exam? Do you weight the subtests equally, or do you give certain subtests, i.e. English and mathematics, more weight? I think it's something that I would want to know, because for my child, my children are 10 and 8, I want to make sure that whatever college they get to, they have the highest chance for and highest probability for being successful and graduating and hopefully on time, which is something that I did not do. So there are many reasons for that. So anyway, thanks for watching today. I hope this was informational for you, and I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I hope to be back on the program and on channel on Monday. And Monday, I'm not really sure what we'll talk about, but Thursdays will probably be business. Fridays will probably be education. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll figure out starting next week. All right. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Stay blessed and give thanks to the Most High. Peace out.